Go bold at boldip.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bold Inventor Show. I'm JD Houvener, patent attorney and founder here at Bold Patents Law Firm. You're here, you've made it. This is a live broadcast. We are across YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So welcome all those that are out there. If this is your first time watching, welcome. We enjoy having you here. We do encourage participation and live Q&A. If you have any questions, we'll be sure to get to that in our broadcast. I'm joined with the co-host, Matt Kulseth, who just popped in. Matt.
What's going on?
Yo, good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
All right, we're on. We're live. We're introducing the people here. We've got a guest backstage. We've got Richard Nilsson, who is an inventor and founder of My Pet Go. So we'll have him on in just a little bit. He's patiently waiting. Matt Kulseth, our trademark attorney. Ladder outside. Are you putting up Christmas lights, sir, right now?
Yeah, I installed permanent Christmas lights this year, but I got a little crazy, went a little Griswold style.
Oh, okay.
And totally burned them out.
Oh,
no.
Dude.
I'm gonna have to replace them all. So
okay. Oh,
it's
no.
It's really cold here in Minnesota right now, so I'm not getting up on a ladder today.
Okay. Well, I do see the ladder set up. It's all ready for you. But
yeah. All ready for me, man. How have you been?
Good. I've been good. Yeah, we've got kids off early. And this is basically the last thing I'm doing before taking, 4 days off. So it should be good.
Yep. Me too.
Been having fun. Coach of basketball. Our team won our second game on Monday. Super proud of those girls. It was at the point where I felt bad because the other team was doing so poorly.
Are you running it up?
I was running it up. I pulled some of my top players, the two girls, the twins, Mia and Bella, and they were frustrated. Like, look, we got to rotate in some of the other third graders. I appreciate you guys. My sister told me the really cool idea is when you're running it up, a rule you can tell your girls or your players is, I want you to pass it 10 times before you score, before you shoot. So I'm going to integrate that on the next game. Anyway, we're holiday season mode. We're kicking into gear. Thanksgiving tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Matt, and family.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Yeah, we're hanging out just at the house. No one. Well, my dad's coming over, but this is a small little party. Are you guys hosting or going anywhere?
No, we're gonna go over to my in-laws tomorrow.
Okay, well that's good.
We're gonna host Christmas this year.
All right, good. We'll take a holiday off. That's great. Well, happy travels, and all of you out there as well. Happy Thanksgiving. For those out there watching that are interested in catching us live, if you're watching this after the fact, we are live every Wednesday, 1:30 Pacific. You can catch us next week or one of the future weeks. We're here just about every Wednesday. This is episode 34 this year. So check us out. Our website is boldpatents.com. If you have any questions, you want to talk in a confidential manner, I encourage you to download our Inventors Kit. That's one of the things we've just presented. I put this together a month ago, so it's hot off the presses. That's our link to download the kit. Lots of good information. It's got a copy of my book, on this shoulder, Bold Ideas, The Inventor's Guide to Patents. Full tutorial on what in the world patents are about, what the difference is between patents and trademarks. Check it out. I also have a nice guide for patent searching, as well as the patent success matrix. Very cool. And so check it out. All right, let's get to some Q&A. I've got 3 that came in this week, and then we'll go to our guest. All right, nice. Sound good, Matt?
Sounds great.
Okay, most of them are trademarks, so I'm feeling really relaxed right now.
Perfect. Let's do this.
You're on the spot. Let's put you right up here. Okay. So could I challenge a trademark registration since the individual stole my intellectual property as a designer, despite having voided contract due to non-payment? Uh-oh. So ex-employee gone wild here. What do you do?
Let's see here. So could I challenge a trademark registration since the individual stole my intellectual property? It sounds like potentially, and I run into this situation pretty often. Okay. Clients will hire a logo designer, someone to do graphic design for them. They'll do it, right? And then, ultimately there'll be disagreement between the parties, and the one party will say, hey, you don't actually own this. I designed it. I didn't assign it to you. And that's a big thing in like the art design world is like copyright protection, right? Like I'm an artist, I own my own copyrights.
Yep.
And that's all well and good, but when it comes to commercial, doing work for other people, honestly, like that should be a work made for hire agreement. So I would say, if you have, it's going to be a state level question, to be totally honest, but if you have some sort of contract between the parties, I'd want to see that contract. There's going to be a clause in there about what happens if that contract is, voided or, I guess infringed upon, right? Violated. At that point, right, you could still have the rights to the trademark or the logo, or potentially the designer has it. But I guess without more context, really hard to say.
Hard to say. Hire a trademark attorney. But in this case, what you're saying is this likely is a situation where an individual hired somebody, a designer, to go make art,
yep.
a logo, if you will, and then didn't pay him. Obviously, screwed them, avoided the contract, and then took it and used it to register a trademark.
Yep.
The artists have any recourse? Looks like perhaps in state court, you're saying copyright, or in federal court, copyright infringement, maybe. But it's going to depend on whether the initial work counted as a work made for hire, and then it's just a matter of going after damages for the payment.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you could challenge this at the USPTO if they truly did file a trademark registration, but I mean, the USPTO does not want to litigate work made for hire agreements. That's not what they're into, right? At the end of the day, they want to see who had priority of the trademark first, and that's really it. But yeah, they don't want to deal with this. So this is a state level trademark question, I would say.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Matt.
Contract law question, actually. So
yeah, and that's why we're kind of dipping into the state law specific stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll have my one patent question here. It is a long one. And again, anybody listening, nobody showing up live on our stream, but anybody might be out there on LinkedIn. Feel free to fire away with any questions. We'll take those as priority over these that have come in over the week. So hi all, first time posting in the group. This is Akora. Quick question. I've been using lens.org, which I have seen for some time, to dive into patents. There's a free and a paid version of Lens. I've noticed it's challenging to simply aggregated list of all patents for one company, since large companies often have multiple applicant names for the same company. And some use the variation of company names and owners as well. It seems like there should be a solution to this. I'd be happy to build something that can actually aggregate all patents. There's a little bit more to it. Okay, interesting. Was there a question there? Should be a solution to this? Well, okay, I guess. So the question is,
please comment.
How do we solve? How do we collect? How would I identify all the patents owned by a big corporation? Well, and I'm not a patent researcher, okay, but we do have those on our team. What I would say is there's lots of different ways to look for patents. I rely on Google Patents under the Patent Center at uspto.gov. Has gotten a lot better, got a big facelift a couple years back. And there's an advanced search function. I do believe there is an applicant. There's also the assignee, which is where I would probably start. Assignee is the owner of the patent. And that's going to be the corporation. That'll be the company. Especially if it's a sizable company, they're going to have in-house counsel, general counsel that will advise them to transfer the rights of any individual applicant or inventor to the company. So I would say query by assignee. Look for the name with the full company name, and it should pull up almost everything. That's my hunch. So
cool.
Yeah, I don't know lens.org that well. Matt, have you heard of it? Is it a trademark?
No, I'm like you. If I have to look at a patent, which I don't, but if I do, I go to Google Patents.
Google Patents, yeah, it's quite good. All right, let's take two more. This one may be a real quick one, but it's a good one. I think it comes up a lot. We talk about different classes here. Okay, so
the answer is no.
You already saw it? Oh my God, world record. Okay, if I have a registered trademark in one class, do I have protection in all classes?
No.
Oh, darn, my 220.
Yeah, all right. So this is a great question, and I talk to clients about this every week, right? So, the idea is that there's these 45 classes of goods and services, everything from legal services to apparel to online retail to, your grandma's, purse falls into one of these 45 categories, goods and services. First, 34 are products, 35 to 45 are services.
Okay.
So if you have a trademark registration in one class, generally speaking, the rule is you just have protection in that class. However, some classes are linked for trademark registration purposes because they're so overlapping. A good example of that is going to be the apparel category and jewelry. Those two categories are essentially the same category, even though you apply for them differently.
Okay, I was trying to sell myself. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
And you do this. No.
I'm like doing horrible. I'm like, yo, okay. I'm completely distracting you. Just continue.
No, it's good. I was like, did you want to?
Like,
yeah. So anyways, you get protection just to the class that you're in. A lot of clients are in multiple classes and will file trademarks commensurate with that strategy. Multiple classes, but if a client's selling jewelry and apparel, generally speaking, I'm just going to say, hey, just be in the apparel class. No one's going to be able to get into that jewelry class because it's so close to what you're doing. There's other examples like that too. You could look at software and downloadable software programs. So like one is like SaaS based or PaaS based, platform as a service. The other is actually like downloadable applications for desktop or mobile phone. Those two different classes, one is actually a service, one is a good, but they're still related for trademark registration purposes. Not to the same extent, but they are related.
Got it. So if you have the extra money, for sure, file the extra class. But if you're trying to be skimpy, there are ways to kind of skirt around it and be a little bit more.
I think the most classes I filed for a single client is 9. I think the client, they're one of our
single application.
No, I filed them all individually. Best practice, you could file them all 9 classes in one single application, but you are just in for a world of pain when it comes to actually getting that registration through, because if there's a problem with one part of the application, it's going to hold up the rest. And, best practice is just to file them separately. They're harder to challenge from a litigation standpoint, easier to manage, in my estimation. So I generally file them all individually. Very
good. Last question, and we're going to get on to our guests.
Cool.
This is a long one. This is from our Avo group. So what options are there? This guy's got a trademark problem. We're working on a clothing brand, so you're just talking about apparel.
Everyone's favorite.
Dog Cruise. Actually pretty related to our topic for the guests here.
Cool.
I've been creating designs, working on my website, Dog Crew with a K, related to social media handles, content manufacturers back in September this year. He filed one for in-use status, but discovered a competitor had filed a Dog Crew with a C, 2 words, with the ITU. I don't know ITU.
Intent to use.
Intent to use. Okay, after that in October. They go on to talk about some other stuff here. They apply for several classes, including those related to clothing.
This individual, they're screwed.
Oh, okay. Officially.
So, based on if those facts are what they are, and it's clean as it sounds, you failing to go to market and also failing to file a trademark application prior to going to market allowed basically this third party to file a trademark application. So if they had filed an intent to use application in the fall or sometime in the summer, right, that would have held space at the USPTO and prevented this third party from applying for their intent to use application.
Yep.
The only other remedy I would say is that if this is a competitor, but Jonathan Mitchell, that's rough. That's right. We got a comment from a listener. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I would say if this individual knows the third party, right, and there's some sort of agreement between the parties, right, that could be a violation of, a non-disclosure agreement or some sort of proprietary information, in which case there's probably a different remedy available to this person. But that's tough. That's really tough.
Right. It's tough. And
or as Jonathan says, that's rough.
That's rough. Thank you, Matt. All right, sir. We did it. You did it. Hats off to you. Keep your hat on, though. Oh, there it is. All right.
Sorry. Working on the car today. I'm greasy.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's bring our guest on. Richard Nilsson, welcome to the stage here at Bold Inventor Show.
Thank you for having me, folks.
Hey, Richard. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, Matt. Hey, JD.
All right. So you are the founder of My Pet Go, and I was, thinking of what the interview would be, what questions I got, and I got a bunch. So let's just start here with the origin story, right? What inspired you to create My Pet Go?
Well, I guess a combination of being a pet parent. So my dog, Caesar, a 10-year-old Maltese. When I started this, he was I guess about 6. But also the fact that I'm an opportunistic entrepreneur that kind of looks at gaps in the market, and I could see that, the pet sector, broadly speaking, is until today very analog, and so, how does one digitally transform it? And I've done a lot of that in my life in other industries before, and sort of looked at this and looked at the macro and said, the numbers look quite interesting. I think, millennials at the time, but certainly today, Gen Z is sort of becoming the largest pet parent group, and they are very data driven, do most of their chores on their mobile phone. So it kind of makes sense to try to consolidate all your pet chores into the mobile phone with a data driven approach, where you add sort of nuevo technology, frontier technology like AI and things around that. Yeah.
Super cool, Richard.
Yeah.
I'm looking at your website right now.
Tell us about
Yeah,
so for those that don't know, what is My Pet Co? What is the service, or what is the product that you offer?
Yeah, so it's like a Whoop strap for your dog, right? So we're a canine only offering at the moment. We don't have a feline offering or a cat offering. It is in the works for 2026, but we're trying to sort of perfect the dogs before we kind of jump over to a different animal. And the idea is essentially to report on the same stuff that you would get from your health wearable as a human. The difference, though, is pets do not tend to talk. And so we're trying to kind of give them a voice through the data and through explaining what these health markers means and what you can do about when something goes out of range. So we look at HRV, which is not commonly used in the world of pets, right? Or dogs, I should say. We understand that marker as a human because that's what we get from whatever Aura Ring or Whoop Strap or Apple Watch, or the original gangster was, of course, Fitbit. And so we understand that we look at step count, behavior traits. We look at other health markers like respiration rate, which is obviously breathing. We look at temperature, whether it's high or low, which could, obviously be an indication of hyperthermia or, something that could potentially lead to heat stroke. So we look at that and a bunch of the different markers. But I think, the one thing that we do quite differently is we explain this in a layman way, and then we sort of say, here's what you can do with this data and this insights, and here is someone who can help you. That's where we bridge that contact to a service provider or a physical product. So it's kind of an ecosystem play, platform play. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. When maybe a dumb question. I mean, in terms of, I've got some hair, right? But I've had no issues.
Sure.
Did you have to overcome some technical hurdles actually getting the sensors to go through hair to be able to get the right metrics?
Yeah. So, I mean, what you're using there, I guess that was a Fitbit or an Apple Watch.
Apple Watch. Yeah. Right.
Apple Watch. Here you go.
Yep.
So if you kind of look underneath, you have like the green light, right? So that emits green light. It looks at how the blood is flowing under your skin. Okay. And you're right, unless you're like super hairy, it tends to work quite well. We use different sensors and we use a different science, right? So the science that, Whoop or your Apple Watch would use is PPG, right? We use something called BCG, which is ballistocardiography. And so it looks at how the blood mass is shifting in the body. And we use different types of sensor for this, right? We can't emit light because we're dealing with the fur. So we got to we use a gyroscope and an accelerometer. And so there is other data points we extrapolate. We then put these data points into AI models, and we then try to mimic what a heartbeat kind of looks like. And then we report on that. Yeah.
That's cool. So is that a new type of sensing? A new sensor?
Well, I mean, it's old sensors, but I guess the AI models are new, right? So it's like we're a data business. We're not really a hardware company. We're a data business. We try to make sense of data. We try to report that data in a simplistic, understandable way, and then kind of help you make sense of what this data means and what it can do for you and your pet, and how it can kind of, help you to mitigate something going kind of in the wrong direction. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. We have a number of clients that are not necessarily in this exact technology area, but that want to do this concept of gathering data and using it. How did you go about that? I think in terms of getting it out there, to get data, you have to have users and sensors on animals, right? Maybe not.
Yeah.
How did you gather data?
Yeah. So I guess you can have plenty of users, but if you want to kind of get the markers right, we're dealing with like 200 odd dog breeds, right? And then we're dealing with, males, females, healthy, unhealthy, young, old. And so when you start looking at all the data points between that, you're looking at far more than 200 types, right? And so what you need to do is you need to essentially have a mixture of, and then, I'm mentioning pure breeds. You're not talking about the crossbreeds here. So, it becomes, more challenging. But essentially what you need to do is you need to take the wearables, test it on tons of different, breeds and ages and health conditions, and then kind of validate the data output with medical equipment, and then with a stethoscope, which is the old-fashioned kind of veterinary listening and kind of doing it the old-fashioned way, and then kind of calibrate backwards, right? But the science we use is, as I said, BCG. It's a lot of work. We've been building this for the past 4 years. We're kind of like gone to market, and we're a B2B proposition. So we tend to work with other pet tech or pet related companies that have a big existing base of users. And then we white label everything from the application where we built this longevity program where we give like daily tasks. Here's what you should do across, activity, which is sort of mobility and rest. And then we have like health and nutrition. And then we got like preventative care and health screenings, right? And if you do all these things in a timely manner, you will have a happier, a healthier, and a longer living dog, right? And that's kind of what, the mission and vision is here. It's really to kind of help you understand your pet better, but also to get your pet to kind of, live with you a longer and healthier and better life.
Cool. Love that. Okay. We're here on the Bold Patents Show. So let's talk about intellectual property for a bit. As you're kind of maybe on the earlier side of this 4 years, when did it sort of dawn on you that maybe this is something worth protecting, and how did you go about it?
Yeah, I mean, we have a bunch of trademarks. And because we're a global business, it's kind of like, do you go nuts on your trademarks, or do you kind of focus on certain territories? And we haven't gone like super nuts on it, but I think we will. I've spent a lot of time in Asia Pacific and in particular in Southeast Asia, and Ralph Lauren, he forgot to trademark Ralph Lauren and Polo Ralph Lauren in Indonesia, which I guess he thought was, who cares about that country? So in Indonesia, where my wife is from, you'll have thousands of Polo Ralph Lauren stores, but it's not his stores. You'll find them at the ferry terminals. You'll find them at the oddest and weirdest places, and they're like cloned, perfect copies, right? I mean, you buy one, you wash them one time, they don't keep the shape as the real deal for sure. But it's interesting, and in my previous life, I was in media, and Ralph Lauren was one of my advertisers, and they advertised with me in Hong Kong and in Singapore. But in Indonesia, they were, and so I knew them fairly well, and they were trying to work with the Indonesian government to kind of go around this. But the guy who trademarked this was probably an Indonesian fellow or lady who had studied in the US, had discovered this brand, and gone back to Indonesia after studied and just trademarked the shit out of it, like every combination, everything, and owned everything. So there was nothing that the Indonesian government could do, and they tried the hardest. So in our case, sort of segue back, we haven't patented anything. We've trademarked the name My Pet Go because we think logo types come and go, and it's not So, but the name we've trademarked. Merck in the US, they own My Pet, which was the original name we actually wanted. And when I saw that Merck had that, I thought, okay. And at the time, they didn't make use of it, but they owned the domain, and they had that. In terms of patents, we've decided not to do anything with Gen 1 because we knew that whatever we build for Gen 1 is going to be vastly improved for Gen 2. So we probably will look at a combination of hardware where we're actually building like the Whoop, we're building like our own components. So we're not going to rely on third party. So the way we build it, it's going to be patented. We're also going to patent the algorithms, which is hard if you base it on a science, because you can't patent the science, but we can patent the way that we leverage the science and how the algos actually work. So we will certainly do that. I think, if you want to be like Musk and open source everything, you can do that. But I think, we'll protect some of the stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Right. Well, you've been in business now selling your main product, and I have to ask: have you seen any copycats, any infringers of the product, even though there's no technical patent asset? Any copycats that have come up?
I mean, I've seen many companies, because I do speak at a lot of like pet conferences, and there are a couple of big ones, right, in Europe and US and Asia, and I kind of tend to go to all of them. So I do know people in the space fairly well, and I know all the large players, the Mars and the Purina Nestle's, and so there are a lot of so-called wearables that are 2.0 wearables that are now using AI models, and they're looking at longevity, and it kind of sounds very familiar. And I don't know where they got all that from, but one can guess. So look, I think it's a free market, so I think it grows the category to have others like. If you look at pet wearables, it's nowhere near its fullest potential. It's nowhere near where human wearables are, right? Like we're like, most people don't even know it exists. They know maybe about GPS trackers, but health and longevity is kind of a completely, entirely new sort of subcategory, which I think we're early in that. But yeah, we've seen concepts that are about to launch. They seldom launch, but they say they're going to be able to do everything, and they have the ecosystem play, and they do this and they do that, but then they seldom come to market. It's very hard to deal with hardware, everything from manufacturing.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, this, what you're doing is a big lift, because you got software, you got hardware, you got sales. Yeah. I mean, distribution, manufacturing. It's not just something that a hobbyist could pick up over a course of a month and make it happen for themselves.
Right.
Sophisticated group of individuals to put something like this together to copy you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a high entry barrier. If like somebody wants to come in and compete, you need to be like a complete full stack individual who knows everything across technology, because it's algorithms, it's AI, it's hardware, it's firmware, it's middleware, right, and software. And so you need to be able to do all of that. And you need to be able to do it well, and like nobody can do that. So you're going to have to hire quite a few experts, and then you're talking about sales channels and distribution and biz dev and all these other things. Like that's a whole different ball game there. Then you talk about,
you're also going to need probably about $100,000 to get started, I would think.
I mean, it took us $7 million to get to where we are. So we have hard to go to market. So I mean, if you can do that for $100,000, I'll hire you.
I can't.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's take a little bit of time there. So let's talk about how you got funded, or if you were self-funded. How did you get started with that initial, maybe first round, and began to circulate that?
Yeah, I'm the main investor. So I built some stuff in my past life, and some not so successful, and some quite successfully, and managed to sell it off to a big German media and tech conglomerate. And some of the proceeds from that kind of venture was reinvested into this new venture and idea, and that's kind of how it started. And then, when you are self-invested to a large degree, both money and time and blood, sweat, and tears, you tend to be able to convince others to also put in money, because you do have so much skin in the game, and they know that, you're not gonna kind of throw in the towel that early. And so, yeah, I mean, I have some professional investors, and I have some what you would refer to as angel or private investors, but fairly sophisticated folks that have come in, and now we're looking at creating this larger group where we're honing in on AI and longevity as two kind of very important areas that we want to focus on, but kind of acquiring and building and investing into things that are synergistic, that can be built in and kind of assembled together. Think of it as Lego bricks that can be put together, and then we go and package this up to B2B partners as a B2B proposition. And they have different wants and needs, but when you have these different Lego bricks, they can kind of pick and choose, and you put it together and you enable them and give them these new frontier technologies. And that's what we've done. And I think that's really quite unique, that B2B proposition, where these type of companies tends to be direct to consumer most often.
I was going to ask about that, Richard. Why did you decide to go B2B as opposed to B2C?
So I think the direct to consumer route is very expensive. So you have a high customer acquisition cost, and then you tend to unfortunately have a high churn rate. So you're spending a lot for a customer that's going to come in, and then the customer leaves you quite quickly. And these businesses tend to be driven by an underlying model of a SaaS kind of fee, a subscription fee. So sure, what you get from the wearable might cover, it might not even cover your overhead. Like for manufacturing, like your COGS, it may cover, but it won't cover the COGS plus marketing, which is your customer acquisition cost per se. And so we sort of said, why don't we go to the big guys that already have all the pet owners, and they have a relationship with them, and there is a trust there, and they've spent hard-earned cash into building that audience. And then we do a meaningful deal with them where we really provide value to them and their users, and on a revenue share basis, and so on and so forth. And so that was always our prerogative with like, how do we go by marketing, and how do we go by building this? So I guess by next year we will be powering probably 10 million freemium users, and I don't know how many premium. So freemium would be they run on our app. They don't yet have a wearable, but they get a lot of the other kind of app, features that we have there. And then a chunk of them will then become sort of premium and get the wearable as well. And like all the health markers and things that comes with actually the wearable. Yeah.
That's really neat.
It's a lot of users.
Yeah, it's a lot of users. It's a lot of data. Yeah. And the model there would be, we charge a very small fee to kind of maintain the app and enable it. And I mean, it's a state-of-the-art application with like everything from scheduling to journaling to whatever concerns your pet's life. Like you can go completely nerd, and like whatever you feed, whatever you do, you can put in there. Or you can choose to use whatever you think is helpful to you, like schedule reminders for, dental scaling or your upcoming kind of nose to tail checkup and whatnot. Like it's really up to you. So we don't dictate that.
We just got a pet this year, Cal. He's a doodle. He's awesome. And one of the things I've noticed is the insurance, right? I mean, you get insurance, and then you go get the chip put in. I mean, it seems like you need to something
the microchip.
Do. Right. It seems like a great opportunity, perhaps, to, hey, why just do that, like you said, freemium, maybe integrate with insurance or the vets or the breeders. I'm sure you've thought about some of that as a way to enter the market. That's interesting. Very, very cool. I think people would want to at least have access to it, or have the opportunity later to upgrade, kind of like you're saying. Down the road. Got one question from our audience here. Mm-hmm. Have you run into problems with other patents in the space? Have you looked into that? Are you worried about infringing others, whether it be
Well,
software
I mean,
or hardware.
yeah, I mean, I was looking at a other wearable that was looking at partnering with us or selling their business to us, and I saw that in their pitch deck they had like 15 different patents, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, why have you gone down this road? And it's, a lot of it was around GPS tracking and things I'm completely not interested in, because I think it's a yesteryear feature and function, and I think they don't really tend to work really well. And I was just curious to why, because you file these patents and sometimes you get them and quite often you don't, right? But you spend your money and time on it. And I totally get it that you want to protect what you have, but if it's like not meaningful stuff, it makes no sense. But we sort of, we get the question a lot, in particular from investors, like what type of patents do you have? And my question back to them is, if I had a lot of patents, would it make you more inclined to invest? And you'd be shocked with the answer. Quite often they're like, no, I'm just curious, right? But I think the reality is
thinking yes. They might be thinking yes. They just won't say it. But
yeah, I mean, look, there is obviously value if you have something that's incredible, you want to protect that, right? I mean, look at the pharmaceutical industry, right? It's like, like if you can patent something and you can have that for, depending on what it is, 10 years at least before it needs to go to open market. I mean,
20 on a utility.
Yeah, 20. Yeah.
Well,
and
I think 20, for you, I think I loved how you articulated it. Although I don't love the result of other inventors hearing that you don't have to get a patent. The truth is you've developed an amazing high barrier to entry business model that truly has trade secrets, right? How you're doing that. That is truly your intellectual property. So you have a small circle of employees, trusted counsel, people that you've worked with that know how you're doing it. And and you said no one can do that. So you do have IP in how you're operating and can create that competitive advantage and really kind of being a market of one. So I think you've done well. And I like this concept of maybe now we're going to innovate. Now we're going to come up with something unique with our own device, our own design for the equipment and the hardware. It's quite smart.
And I like the idea of the business to business model in the sense that like some of your customers, these businesses that you're probably working with, I mean, those potentially could have been, competitors at some point, but making them a customer, basically, diffuses any opportunity for them to go create their own product, right?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. I mean, it's a bit like, hey, look, we're going to offer you the lazy way here, which is I'll enable you. You can take all the credit. It will be white labeled, so is your own brand. And like, there is the other idea with that thinking, and that is, this is the quick way to scale and be global, right? Like if you were to have performance marketing teams in every corner of the world, and you had to have like warehouses everywhere, and you had to think about local shipping and import. It's like, I don't need to deal with any of that shit, right? I can just, I can just focus on, being a data company and data driven and creating a killer product and something that, has the feature sets that these people need and want. And then someone else does the heavy lifting in terms of,
the marketing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Love that. Good. Richard, thank you for being on and sharing your story with us. I guess I always ask this, anything else you want to share? Inventors might be listening out there live or after the fact, any sort of wisdom you could impart as you're sort of wrapping up this interview?
Well, I mean, I'll tell everybody a story. So my dad is quite innovative and he's done a lot of interesting stuff, but he had a brother, he had 5, but one of them was looking at ice skating back in the days. And then he was looking at, the old type of roller skates. And he was like, there's something wrong with that, 2 wheels, right? It's like, that doesn't make sense. Like if you think about ice skating, like you should probably have the wheels 4 in a row, right? The roller blades. So he actually had the whole kind of roller blade concept outlined and never did anything about it, right? Never never kind of put proper pen to paper and try to protect it in some sort of way, but had prototypes and things. And obviously the rollerblade was invented by somebody else.
I have heard of it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And so to those that are out there thinking that they got a good idea and they've never seen it anywhere, do a bit of research. If you can't find it anywhere, maybe you are to protect it some way, somehow, and really get serious about it. And I guess we had an interesting neighbor, Håkan Lantz. I was born in Stockholm, Sweden, and he was quite the inventor. He invented a GPS for boats, I believe the computer mouse, and color screens for computers. I mean, he did a lot of like high-end tech stuff, right? But he was like that funny neighbor that would, if you bumped into him in a grocery store, he would kind of hide what he was buying in the grocery store. Like you couldn't like see into his bag. So, get a little cuckoo, right? But yeah, look, I think protecting what you have is very important, especially if it's something that's quite generic and like it's a low entry barrier. You want to protect it, right? And it has mass appeal. Like you want to think about that. I think we'll definitely start to protect things as we go into Gen 2 and we kind of build everything on our own. But yeah, sometimes you need to get to a Gen 2 by having a Gen 1 that is suboptimal.
Oh,
Richard, it's the word just to get to market, right? That's just, you can't make money unless you're in the marketplace, right?
Yeah, and you also have to learn, right? So it's like it's a learning curve, and you have no reference point. Like if you're the first truly building something, it's like what's your reference point, and what are you trying to compare that to? And so if there is no comparison, there is no comparison, right? So it's like if you look at any innovation, like how it started to where it is today, it's look at the first iPhone, those kind of, when you tapped on something, it gets stuck, right? And you're like, oh man. And like to where they are today, I mean, it's mind-blowing, right?
My girls were like, hey, did you get a cell phone when you were in school? I'm like, yeah, but they looked a little different. And so I told them the cell phones have changed over the years, and they're like,
yeah.
They didn't always have screens. I'm like, anyway, so
yeah.
Let me do this. Can you stay on with us for another 15 or so minutes, or do you?
Sure. No
problem. We do what's called a Bold Bite, and we do a Shark Tank review from an intellectual property perspective. And I did pick one that's pet related, so it should be fun. So if you would please, Richard, go on mute. Matt, do the same, and I'll share my screen, and I'll kind of do a quick go through of this video. All right, Matt, give me a thumbs up on audio if you hear it coming through.
Next up is an exciting way to keep your best friend active.
Hi, Sharks. I'm Megan. This is Piper, and we're from Malabar, Florida. I'm seeking $240,000 for 6% equity in my company, Swift Paws. If you're anything like me, your pets are family. Total dog mom right here. But we feel guilty when we don't have enough time to give them all the attention and exercise that they need every day. Introducing Swift Paws Home, the pet enrichment toy that lets you create the best game of chase ever in your backyard. You just set the course wherever you want, run the string around, and when you pull this trigger, it goes zipping around.
Oh my God. That's so cool. How does it work? Does it just change direction on its own?
No, it doesn't. You control it. Dan, would you like to give it a try?
Sure.
So and this is some of our home equipment on a larger field.
That's great. Wow.
So how did you get into this? Tell us that.
So I was a recent college grad. I got a degree in economics, and I took the summer off just to do dog sports. I was doing dog agility. I discovered the sport of lure coursing.
Well, what's it called?
It's called lure coursing.
Lure coursing with Piper.
Actually, this got started with a little dog named Pretzel. And I lost Pretzel in May.
What happened?
Sorry.
He was 14 and a half. I lost him to kidney disease.
Oh, so it looks like a pretzel.
It's still hard for me because that dog, he was my sidekick. He had a great long life. He didn't really like to play with toys, but he loved chasing stuff.
Is Piper your dog too?
So Piper's my dog. I got Piper a couple of years ago.
Megan, take us through the progression.
Absolutely. So we got to start making pro-grade equipment. The equipment out there that people would build.
And when did you start doing this?
In 2012. I built my first one with the help of my dad. My dog loved it. I invited my agility friends. They loved it. I actually...
How big is the agility sport?
Hundreds of thousands of entries in thousands of competitions every year. I built professional grade equipment. We filed for our patent. And then in about 2017, we were going around the country selling this to zoos, dog trainers, doggy daycares, and then everybody who would come to these events, average dog owners, would say, I need this in my backyard. So I couldn't let it go. I said, I have to make one because the pro-grade equipment costs over $2,500, and that's just not affordable. So then we launched this with a Kickstarter in 2018. We shipped our first units in 2019.
So what are sales now?
So I want to get to sales. I don't want to leave you guys hanging. So I ended up doing a seed round in 2020. And I did that on a convertible note, $2.5 million cap. I raised $670,000.
Wow.
Good for you. So what percentage do you own now?
If those notes all converted today, I would be at 63%.
What are the prices of the units?
So Swift Paws Home retails for $449 for the kit. Our cost, everything into the box, is $135.
Okay, Megan, now's the moment.
Are we ever going to hear
Now's the moment. You can tell us sales.
Year to date, we've done $750,000.
Wow.
Our target to do $1.5 million, and we've done $1.5 million lifetime.
Give away my golden ticket.
Lord.
I do it once a year to somebody I feel really deserves
The
it.
dog eats that stuff.
No, you know what? You really deserve it. And so I am offering you my golden ticket, which means that I give you what you came in asking for, which is the $240,000 for 6%.
Oh, I was not going to offer you that.
Lori, Pretzel's paw prints are on the bottom of every unit. And I want to continue this journey with you.
Oh, yay.
There we go, guys. All right.
Yeah, total tearjerker, huh?
Yeah. What do you think? I guess pretty cool. Now you've got a dog, right? Cool. Yeah, I know Cal would love that. And especially time. I think it's pretty neat. And so I did a follow-up on that, the Shark Tank recap. So they did do a deal. Lori did agree to actually follow through, and they signed, and their sales were over 2 million in 2023. And they have a new product, the 3 different segments. They just launched this one called Chase for $299, a little more affordable price range. So they're doing great. I think from a patent perspective, I did pull up, they do have a patent for this new system. And I was looking at the claims earlier, but it was issued in 2020. So they're going to have the early filing date was in 2014. So it took a long time to get it through prosecution. So 6 years. And if I looked at the claims, I could kind of tell they had to add quite a few limitations to it, but it does have, it's a robust system covering, the different pulleys and drive units. But you can see the claim is quite long with lots of different elements on independent claim 1. So at any rate, it's great. They've got some protection for it, and also great to hear they've got some market success. How about on the trademark side, Matt? Any highlights?
Yeah, no, they have a number of different trademark registrations at the United States Patent Trademark Office. Swift Paws in the dog toy category. It's like the sporting goods category, class 28. They've registered for Chase, it looks like, as well, which is one of their products. And then we have the logo, which is like a picture of that German short hair.
Right.
So yeah, they're pretty well covered at this point, I would say. Again, they don't have a class 35 online retail store application, which I think would be very useful for them, especially at the size they're at. You might as well protect everything you can here in the United States. So both the product and then obviously the sales distribution method would be appropriate.
Right. Yeah, and from their website, it appears to only be a product or goods specific, but I think they're kind of going for the enrichment, and that this is the actual what the end result is going to be. It doesn't seem like they're doing any type of a service, from what I can tell.
I don't see any applications on the service side.
Yeah,
so I don't
think of all the opportunities, right? Potential ways they could grow, or kind of do some of what Richard's done. Richard, I got you on mute. If you want to unmute, if you have share any thoughts, it'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's always interesting to see some of these companies, and you're like, wow, is that really a thing? And then, obviously it is a thing, and there is a need, and there is a want, and they're selling products. Yeah, great story. Always good to see people that are super passionate to kind of find a way and a path forward. Yeah, always fun to see Shark Tank. Been a big fan of that show. I mean, the original one is Dragon's Den from the UK. Used to watch that a lot. But
right.
And I had some friends that were on the show recently, Mela Pet Care, that raised some money from Mark. So
cool. Mela?
Mela Pet Care. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they got 250 or something at a 10 million valuation. And yeah, I mean, it's been quite a few pet products on the show, right? And they tend to do really well. So yeah, always fun to see. But yeah, it's good for her. I mean, that's she got the patents, and I wonder what she's done internationally with that.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. There's not a whole lot that I could tell, but that's a good question, I think.
Yeah.
Or I like that price point. It's kind of cool to see a number. Are you willing to share what your price point is at, and if you've thought about what it might be going forward in trying to get out to the masses? Would you need to come down in terms of pricing to get that size of the market?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're at 159 retail, or the RRP, recommended retail price. We are
159. Okay. Yeah. All right.
159, which is you sort of get the wearable, and then there's a $9.99 a month, like $10 per month for the data plans, which kind of gives you all the health markers and all the next step recommendations, and essentially the full suite of services. And that's kind of where it is. Like, I think the model to mimic is Whoop, where you don't pay for the hardware, but you commit to a longer duration and maybe a somewhat higher monthly. And I think they've done a tremendous job with how they priced it and how they were very unique in that offering, where they're like, look, the entry barrier here psychologically for people to commit is not to have to pay for the product. They feel that they're getting something physical, tangible for free, and then they commit to this subscription to kind of get the ongoing data, which makes sense. I mean, we're used to that model with our mobile phones, where we kind of get the phone and we pay something every month, and that's fine. So I think that's kind of the model that we're going to go for with Gen 2, and we hope to launch kind of Gen 2 in mid of next year. It's primarily made in the US, as in the inventions are there. The team that helps us with that, the chief veterinary officer, is in the US. Manufacturing will be obviously in Southeast Asia, because that's where you manufacture these types of technological stuff. Components tends to always come from from down there, but in theory we could make it elsewhere, because we're kind of making our own components now. So we'll see. We might make it in Mexico. Trump might out tariff us. Who knows?
Yeah, you're gonna be making it here in Minnesota.
Yeah. We might need to do it. It's good. It's cold in Minnesota, so it's good for manufacturing, right?
Right. Yeah, people don't mind being inside. Hey, Richard, to your question about international, they got a few different trademarks here in the United States, but then one in Australia, which is interesting.
So that's a market, obviously, for that type of.
So they must have entered that marketplace and decided to file a trademark application. And Australians love trademarks.
Yeah,
I don't know
no,
why, but they love
I
trademark registration.
I have an Australian trademark for my Petco.
I saw that.
Yeah. But I mean,
And a New Zealand one.
Yes, we got New Zealand too. Yeah, that's right.
You said
that's
you
right.
didn't go crazy. I wonder what crazy would look like. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the whole Madrid protocol, I guess, but we are kind of doing that now, as a matter of fact, and we are kind of rolling out everywhere. We've just been a little bit lazy, but it's like, you want to come fight us. It's okay.
Yeah.
So
Well,
okay.
if you need some additional trademarks filed, call me.
I know who to call both for patents and trademarks now. So this is really, really helpful. You might get some business from me.
Wonderful. Well, even if we don't, it's been such a pleasure having you. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and your experience so far. We'll have to have you back to hear about version 2 next year. I wish you the best of luck on that launch, and wonderful Thanksgiving to you both. So
to you
Likewise.
two guys. Thank you so much. Also meeting you. Yeah.
Go big,
Yeah.
go bold.
Go big, go bold at boldip.com.